All right, greetings. Thank you for joining George, Carl, and Peter. We're in ISSS education on April 27th, 2023, and we can revisit some of the things that we've had open and active. We can look at the status of the system census, as well as look over to the recent activity in knowledge engineering with the large language models, knowing that education is kind of where we pick up once that stage of the archival and curation ends. And then also, Peter, you just mentioned like wanting to learn some CODA operations. So we can start there while you're here and just think about what functionalities you have seen and want to know more about, or that you would imagine if we had, like, if CODA were just an infinite window into the knowledge operations that we wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I'm interested in sort of like CODA 101. It's like introduction to CODA and then how to use it myself in the way that you seem to be expert in doing. And understanding the role of outlining like you did, and then also the work you showed at the knowledge engineering session last week, which is, the integration with various AI activities is something that I'm obviously interested in, and I'm sure other people are, and they might wish to use NODA themselves. CODA, I mean, and how much it costs. I mean, if you've got some kind of license, I guess, for your work. What are the costs involved in the whole thing, and that kind of thing. How do we make more use of it, and how do people access it? I mean, like a video on. I mean, even if you did spend a bit of time now just sort of saying like, here's an introduction to CODA 101, and we could edit the video out, and just then the people could view it as a kind of training session in a sense. That makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, just the what immediately comes to mind, other than just the sort of about, like, it can be used for free, but the version I have is probably in the 20 or 30 per month. Okay. But with it's the price, just address this one point, and of course carry on to the actual use, but the price is per document creator, not user. So it's very useful for organizations, I believe, because you only need one document creator account, and then everybody can use like it at the fullest extent. So that it kind of scales linearly or far less with team size.
So I mean, while I trust you're going to be around for the next 20 years, 30 years with ISSS, this is nevertheless under your account.
Right.
And we should have an ISSS account, which you could be the user of. And could we then transfer all this to the ISSS account, and we all have user access? I mean, that would be and we need to get $20 to $30 a month in the budget, or paid for in some way.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Education at ISSS.org could be or web admin would be much preferable to my own documents.
Yeah, so could we, so that's a good point. So could we could get a domain and just redirect it, like, as you said, education.ISSS.org or coda.ISSS.org would redirect to an ISSS instance, and then could you transfer everything you've been doing over to that account?
Yeah, there's two pieces there. So the first is, who's the document owner? So like here, I'm the owner.
Right.
But so one step is basically to create another login, right, and then have that person be the owner.
We can have CODA at ISSS.org.
Right. The second piece is the embedding in a website. So here, I just took like my own papers. So here's a website. When you go to it, it's just a CODA page.
Okay, so that's what we need to do then. That's really what we do. Okay. So I'll take care of creating a user ID called coda at ISSS.org, and I will have a conversation with Jen about the cost if it's $20 to $30 a month, and see what we can do. And then we'll set up an account, and then I'll work with you to get what you've been doing into that account.
Yeah, and then there would be like census.iisss.org, which is the current, which would be the education public interface, and archive.iisss.org for the knowledge management
Okay.
side.
Okay.
Carl?
Yeah, I've got a friend, Doug Breitbart. I actually am sponsoring his membership here. He's kind of my translator of Carlese, and I've been introduced him to Daniel. We actually, I've started to put some of my stuff. I want to really look at Coda to fill a void in my augmentation system, which is the Gantt chart kind of thing. So I can try to coordinate all the stuff I'm doing. Yeah, so I think that's a important part. And I quickly hit the limit of the free, so I actually do have an account too. And things. So, but yeah, I think that as we go forward and stuff, well, part of my augmentation system is there's the getting things done process, but I'm really looking at focusing on the time aspects of it. So there's a 2-minute rule. So if you can do it in 2 minutes or less, just do it. And then there's a Pomodoro technique that's like 25-minute time blocks. I don't know if people run across that.
No, I came
and
across
then
it. Yeah.
Found a 90-91 rule, which is for 90 days, you should spend the first 90 minutes of your day focused on one major goal and stuff. So those are kind of the 3 levels I'm looking at with and get my PhD done by January 2025 is my 90-minute day. So
Nice.
but that could have some application for ISSS too. If we could have a small group and it's like we got a quarterly goal or whatever, and even if it's 90-minute session once a month or something like that, that could be a way to actually make progress on some major projects.
Yeah. Well, my colleague RJ has some extremely advanced time management approaches. We also have a shared knowledge documents that have features that this one doesn't. So like making templates, I feel like this is what organizations can do and be, is like iterate and improve templates that then people can just clone off, and then having times where people can upskill, and that the templates can always be refined and variants can be made of them. And then like that makes us much more of like a network improvement community, or just like a co-action group at the whole membership scale, or at the SIG scale, and just people who want to self-select and might dose off a template and then be active within that template and just say, yeah, we don't need tasks, we do need this, and then just like kind of compose the environment that they want. And then you can say you can make it on your own account, and then it's your document, just like it's totally your document, or we can just do it within the ISSS ownership, and then that keeps the documents organized and lets the people like play with the automations and things like that. What immediately came to mind was like, in terms of the functionality, was the kind of 3 scales are within a page, like just in this page, it's basically like a text document. And so here, but with some slight variants that I think are relevant to call out relative to like a Google Docs. But just sort of documentation and practices within a page. If you only had one page at all, like when you're looking at this, and then there's within a document, like sidebar, then across documents. And so just understanding what are those articulations, what is the expressivity at each of those levels. Maybe we can also approach it in a systemese, and we can just say, look, code of systems engineering means that we need to have awareness of the systems XYZ, and just use and not and just have it by the by use systems ontology, because otherwise what are we going to do, make an ad hoc ontology for nested systems and input output relationships?
Well, we've talked about that. I think that's another interesting topic on a to-do list, and I don't know where it fits in the priority, but that is, we have talked about ontologies. I don't know what George's thoughts are on ontologies. And Carl's, I'd be interested in hearing your views. I mean, we've talked about an ISSS ontology and whether or not that would be helpful or a distraction. How much that would be systemese or not, I don't know.
Well, my views are in book number 2, so
Please summarize.
I got a book for that.
Chapter 4.
Okay.
yeah, there he summarized it right there.
Yeah, this was human summarization, but it won't be for long.
Yeah, I put a link in. I don't know if you've ever run across the script platform.
Oh yeah.
It's
for
used
transcripts,
for
yeah.
podcasts, but it's really amazing. You can record stuff and then you can actually go and edit
Yeah.
the text. I don't know if you've looked at that, but that's something we could look to try to develop.
I have an account.
So
I'm giving them $30 a month and I'm not using it properly. So
right. So ISSS needs to recruit an expert who's using it, and then well, get them to.
Well, I'm using it. I mean, what's your suggestion about why we need Descript? What's the
just to kind of start putting together like generations of some videos that we're talking about for that's kind of my vision. So people could like present ideas. I mean, that's what I'm looking to do for my dissertation type of stuff, to bounce some ideas off of. Well,
I've thought about trying to use it, on the Saturday sessions, that we have lots of Saturday sessions and with lots of videos, and it would be really nice to be able to kind of do a Descript kind of thing. But it's an incredible amount of work. I mean, geez, you've almost got to be devoted to it.
Yeah, manual editing can certainly, for video audio, can be like many times the original artifact, which is one reason why I'm such an advocate for live streams, of which I consider this meeting to be a semi-private live stream. Yeah, because ultimately it is just limited broadcast live. It's not like but the line is fine, because most live streams are consumed mostly after the fact in the audiovisual, or especially in the language. Yeah. And one way that we can bring a lot of visibility to this is, for example, just by concatenating the recordings that we have, getting the transcript of which Descript or Whisper AI, various methods, and then uploading on a preprint server, and it integrates the spoken discourse rapidly with the scholarly literature. And then people can it's not just like some sort of help out if you can volunteer. It's like, this is on your resume as a research item. You're not the only author on that paper, but you are a co-author on a paper if you just spoke one time. And then
I'm really interested in how one takes a transcript or some derivative of a transcript and then turns it into a book. And in the process, and have been for too long now, doing that with the interviews that James Graham Miller did, and we digitized. Jamie Rose and I spent weeks cleaning up the transcripts, and we want to put them in a book and publish it, which I think could be helpful. And then at some point, it would be good, of course, to actually summarize the transcripts in some way that would produce more of a summary of them.
Yeah.
And we have started doing that work, actually, of writing a concise summary so that people can do that.
Well, one kind of template that we're working on pretty actively is modular writing and composition. So, for example, with a table of the outline of a paper, so just subsections corresponding to a table of contents proposed.
Right.
And yeah, then you could say, okay, what's a 1-sentence description of each of these? And then you can use these kinds of summarize and extend operations to, okay, from the 1 sentence, now make a sub outline for that chapter, flesh that into 4 paragraphs. Again,
right. I think that's wonderful. I mean, I think that's what I was picking up on when you showed this last week or whenever it was, because if we had an ISSS account, then that would be within the ISSS domain. We'd feel comfortable logging on and keeping it within the ISSS record. And we could maybe have a team effort, even, those of us on the call right now that might be interested in taking one summation of some aspect of something and doing what you actually going through and doing it in the way that you suggested. I mean, it's conceivable, I suppose, that even with George here, and he might recoil at the suggestion, but maybe there's a way to, and I know that you've been talking about, creating a course based on the book, but maybe there's some way we could help with that, even just making an introduction to the book itself or the books in some summary way that would give people a way to have to get towards it, step process in the way that you were talking about there, Daniel. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here about.
Well, the age-old way of pursuing these things, which I'm not ready to throw out with the bathwater, is are what we recognize as college-level courses.
Right.
And so you take a book and you reduce it to a curriculum,
right,
syllabus, and produce presentations or I prefer project-based learning pedagogy.
Yeah.
But basically, and that's what that's basically what I think
Shingai,
thank you.
Yes.
Had in mind. I have been working on a top-level view of what amounts to a master's level course. I picked the middle ground between an undergraduate and a PhD
right
course, and I've pretty much settled on the curriculum, not just my books, but the other materials that would complement and extend the kinds of stuff that I've been working on.
Right.
So at some point but the problem, of course, is that there are no colleges offering, no universities offering these kinds of degrees other than, say, Portland.
Right.
And whether or not they stick to it is going to be very tough to say, because there are only 2 faculty members, or one of them is getting ready to retire, and I think the other one might not be too far behind.
Yeah.
well, yeah, the theaters that put on our kind of performance or that kind of performance are closing. So either ISSS hosts a course, or at least does like a lot of work towards preparing that, and then tries to engage with other universities that don't have a systems program and say like, hey, we have basically a curriculum and syllabus. Do you want to teach this course? I don't know if that's a model that has been used where an external or an independent group prepares the curriculum, and then like how that coordinates with the sort of like credit assignment
Yeah.
and expertise at a university. They're going to say, we don't have the expertise to help beyond what's already here on the course, and or we don't have an advocate to advance it through our accreditation or something. So it's like, if somebody wanted to take it as a volunteer thing, they of course could, but
Well,
how to break in.
an alternative is the Santa Fe Institute model, where basically it said, all right, you guys aren't doing this kind of stuff. It needs to be done, and so we're going to do it. And they found the financing and the people, the people who wanted to teach those materials and continue to do research in that area, and proceeded to just get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Peter, before you go, do you have any other thoughts on what kind of like specific functionality or what like questions you would want addressed in a series of short videos?
Well, no, just, you know, the introduction, the features that you've been using and you've been demonstrating to us. And then I guess the next thing would be the possible how this would interface in any educational program that we offer. And then that's about it at the moment. So no, that's fantastic. I think this is a good step forward. I'll talk to Jen about, you know, the web side of this and getting an account, and then yeah, we can go from there. Thanks.
Cool. Just be in contact if you want to find some other time to talk about it. But thank you,
Okay.
Peter.
Well, thank you. Okay, that's great. Well, I'll see you next time.
See you. Okay. So the census, let's see, that we got kind of an initial 10 submissions, but none during April. Didn't push it any further, but also I guess no one who is at the site completed the form, but it was provided. Shingai started his newsletter. Did you see it, George? Or I will bring it up right now.
Sorry, yeah, I saw it, but it dropped way down in the.
Oh yeah, all
in the
good.
queue.
I'll bring this up right now. All right. So I'll put it in the notes. So there's, I believe, 2 posts. Welcome, and then what is system science? So first post, kind of it's a short post and just situates like why he's doing it in his own journey. It's just 3 sections long.
Yeah.
What is system science? I mean, it basically gets directly into your textbook, overviews the methodology that you outlined here.
Yeah, and it's coming back to me.
Yeah, and then he's going to dive into the principles. So I'm excited about this. Is there anything else that you guys would like to explore, talk about? Otherwise, it's totally all good, just what we've covered already.
It's a little bit off topic, but I'd like your assessment of Anil Seth's work.
Oh, yes, I have read the book.
Yeah. I'm reading it for the second time and taking much closer notes because he seems to be, I don't know, my impression is that he's kind of integrating a lot of the IIT and active inference concepts, bringing them all together in a single way. So yeah, like I say, it's off topic for what we're here for, but since I got you cornered, I thought I'd.
Yeah, what specific part, or what's like one highlight or a question that it's making you think about?
There are many. So I'm just like I said, I've been trying to sort out some Carl's work versus Julio's work versus some of the other things that are out there. I've got, I don't know how many books on the subject now. Mark Solms.
Yep. I know it's like, it's the affective regulation in the brainstem. It's the information integration in the precortex.
Yeah.
It's the embodiment with the environment and the dynamical, reciprocal causation. It's like they all, that's the elephant and the six blind people.
Yeah.
And then this one, just that they came out with, I'll put it in the chat there. This with Friston as well, but Ramstad's the first author. Here they kind of extend some of the quantum holography into the consciousness space, which is a very interesting direction. And then it's like, okay, so if you have some information architecture, you could describe the flow of information and the information integration in terms of IIT. Also, you could highlight the interfaces as holographic screens and highlight, rather than like the quality or quantity of information integration, you could highlight the structure and the type of screens. So they're not contradictory perspectives. And I think that is beyond consciousness being ineffable, etc. That is, I think, what like there's just a lot of things that come in and there's a lot of things that go out, and these frameworks are not necessarily even differentiable from each other in certain ways. Like, no one denies various of the pieces that an author will highlight, and then it's kind of like, well, are you arguing against somebody who took that position, or are you just highlighting something important that everybody recognizes as important and deploying it in more of a rhetorical fashion? And then, like, what are the unique predictions and explanations? But of course, the challenge for something ineffable is they can say that there are unique predictions, but the predictions are not necessarily unique to that model.
Yeah.
So
now this is what I'm coming to. It's the same. It for me, it's a reflection of the same thing that's going, or in my mind, has gone on in system science. That you've got all of these different sort of perspectives and aspects that are not contradictory, but you need to find how they integrate together, to work together to build a sort of a single view of what's going on. They're mostly converging on what seemed to me to be the essence of how the brain, particularly the neocortex, is a model building machine that, and then using those models to generate predictions, and then using those predictions to well, looking at the prediction versus the actual coming up from the bottom to determine an error, and it's that error which constitutes the information. And what you're trying to do is minimize the amount of information that the brain over time that it's by increasing knowledge. So
Yeah.
it's
Two quick thoughts on that. One is I agree the systems concept of just like meta model will help us like rise out of the trenches, because we can then say, okay, we are here. This person's talking about the information flow within the organism. This person's talking about information flow within between. This person's talking about the interfaces. It's like they're all just views of a sub. So that's one piece.
Right.
And the second part that I think isn't unique to this model, but is a very interesting direction that I was excited by, is like rather than only the kind of inductive, deductive, and generalization architectures associated with neocortex, the kind of Numenta, 1,000 brains,
right.
generalization is intelligence paradigm, with Adam Safron here and with other authors, they actually highlight the hippocampus, and that brings more of an embodied navigational and wayfinding perspective. And it's like that's the abductive component. And so I think that it's not just one or the other. They're playing different roles in this orchestration, but to be able to escape the sort of like just say Marx Holmes is right. There is this affective basal component that's related to our homeostasis very primarily. There is this in generalization, induction, deduction, parallelized architecture in the neocortex, and there's this memory, spatial, grid cell, space and time component that's abductive in the hippocampus. It's like, who would have thought that all the parts in the system work together?
Yeah. It's really it's an exciting time.
Yeah. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. And so like while these cognitive systems with radically different architectures are arising and being created, we're coming to new understandings about our own architecture and within the skull and outside the skull. So I totally agree. It's really exciting. One other paper that they just came out with, but I think has a lot of bearing on CODA use, cognitive effort and active inference. And they looked at the Stroop test with the letters of the word are written in a different color. Like green is written green, red, and here's the cognitive demand, and here's the probability of overcoming the cognitive demand. And so I think this is going to help us curate information environments and procedures so that people with all backgrounds and attentional styles can be in their flow and in their state of proximal development, and that things can be like modulated and re-rendered in a very living way, so that we are neither bored nor devastatingly challenged, and that our documents could be responsive with the type of awareness they provide us, so that it's not obvious. We wouldn't look if it was obvious, and it won't make sense if it's too hard. So we obviously need something in between, and now that can be unique for each person in each moment.
All right.
And so being able to have the ontology and the proper structuring of, for example, your textbook, so that it can be like refactored and recomposed that way, and then having it like kind of be the catalyst of a new way to learn and approach systems, which few people will go through the 800 pages linearly or linearly, as I'm sure, and then synthesize that into their knowledge fabric. And then the tacit and implicit knowledge is, okay, now you've read the book, and now what?
All right.
But we could actually bring the artifacts into that gap so that they're more alive.
Right. And then bringing the Damasio view of motivation for attending, or for learning, for attaching sort of emotional or affective aspects to that. That's why I love teaching, especially naive or younger students in the context of permaculture, that, you know, as soon as you say this is food, this is where food comes from, you're attaching something really primordial to the notion of, well, how do I make it work? How does that work? And then you can get into what it takes for a living system, like well, let's say a farm, but, you know, how food grows, how you grow food, what you have to do to provide the right environment for that growth and all that kind of stuff. And I've watched people really attach to that idea and they became capable of building mathematical models when they are not mathematicians by any stretch of the imagination. And yet they got into it because it really meant something to them. So putting all those together.
Yeah. Connecting to personalized motivations and context and language and familiarity with different symbol systems, and then educational paths and spaces that, like, you're not just getting sequentially rug pulled. Here's the model of the atom. Oh, just kidding. No, it's this. Okay, no, just kidding. It's this. No, it's but just having a path where it's like we're using this, and we want to include you, and so you're already in the game. If you even know, you know, and then it goes deeper from there. But it is never gonna we fill in the details of the sketch and we make new sketches, but it's not going to be something different at the end than at the beginning. So hold on to your beginner's mind, ask beginners questions, take a breath, take a perspective. Like, I feel like that would be so much more positive than the technical educational experiences I had, where it always felt like you have to like fight to like be healthy and balanced and human. Even when people are well intended, it's just like, oh, well, can't help it. This is just how chemistry is.
Yeah.
All right. Carl, any last comments or questions? Otherwise, that's good for today. All right. Thank you, fellows. Till next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.